I wanted to love Life is Still Unfair. I really did. Unfortunately, I didn't. But instead of bashing the work of the creators of my favorite sitcom of all time, I want to break down what made the original so special and what I felt was missing in the sequel. Before we get into it, I want to be clear. I have nothing but respect and love for everyone involved in this show. I grew up with it, I hold it dear, and it was genuinely wonderful to see all of these characters again. I'm not here to attack the creators, and I'm not here to tell anyone they were wrong for enjoying the sequel. I'm a film nerd. This is my honest take, and that's all it is. Malcolm in the Middle was a comedy, a very specific kind of comedy.
Yes, can I help you?
Oh, my goodness. Hi, hello.
Loud, anarchic, relentless, and completely committed to its own absurdity. The drama was always there, but it was never played straight.
You're a horrible person and I hate you. I know I'm not supposed to hate people, but if anybody should be hated, it's you.
The show trusted its audience to feel the emotional weight of a scene without ever stopping the joke to explain it.
Mom being John was fun at first, but this is getting out of control.
Life is Still Unfair tries to do both at once, and that's where it loses me. A scene of pure slapstick chaos is immediately followed by a long, earnest, dramatic dialogue.
You can't spend the rest of your life lying and hiding and denying your family even exists.
Worked perfectly until they showed up.
But Dad, stop!
The tonal whiplash doesn't work for me because the two modes require completely different things from the audience. Comedy needs momentum. Drama needs stillness. You can't really have both in the same breath.
Thank you. Who are you?
I don't know.
One of the things that made the original extraordinary was how relentlessly funny it was.
Then I met the beautiful Ida.
Not just in the big set pieces, but in almost every line and moment.
I say,
I've always depended on the kindness of strangers.
There was almost no dead air. Not many shows or movies were able to do this on this level. Every scene had something going on. The sequel has a fraction of that density.
Yeah, your sex takes me to paradise. Yeah, your sex takes me to paradise.
Jokes are fewer, further apart, and when they land, they often feel isolated. A single funny moment surrounded by minutes of dialogue that doesn't quite earn them. The original showed you who these characters were in seconds, through what they did, not what they said. Lois didn't explain that she was overwhelmed. You saw it in the way she moved through a scene.
you better not be fighting and... Wild race!
Hal didn't tell you he was a dreamer. He rented a steamroller or challenged a stranger to a race. Take the very first scene of the pilot. Malcolm introduces his brother Reese with a single line and a close-up of his nostril.
This is the left nostril of my brother Reese. It squeaks all night long.
You know everything you need to know. The sequel opens with Malcolm explaining his job in detail.
We install computer systems in grocery store chains and food manufacturers to align their inventory software with food banks and shelters all across the country.
It's not badly written, but it's pure exposition, and it's exactly the kind of thing the original would never have done, because the original understood that if you have to explain it, you've already lost. If you put the two openings side by side, the difference is immediate. On one side, chaos, humor, and character compressed into seconds. On the other, a dialogue block that goes on for minutes, explaining what could have been shown in a single image.
I'm happy. I'm successful. I've learned to work productively with idiots. My life is fantastic now.
Characters describe themselves, explain their relationships, articulate their feelings. The audience is informed rather than invited. This is the most basic rule of visual storytelling. Show, don't tell. The original understood it instinctively. The sequel forgot it almost entirely. The original had a look that was entirely its own. Handheld cameras, wide-angle lenses that distort faces and exaggerate movement, making every expression bigger, every physical gag more extreme.
So what can you do?
Fast cuts, constant motion. It felt uncontrollable in a way that matched the show's energy perfectly. The fourth wall breaks weren't just a narrative device. They were part of the visual grammar of the show.
Killer robots? I can't believe it. Finally something cool about being smart.
Malcolm talking directly to camera felt like the only natural thing in that world. The sequel is shot like a prestige drama. It's clean, it's well lit, it's competent. And for a show like this, that polish comes at a cost. The original's rough edges were a feature, not a bug. They made the show feel immediate and uncontrollable, exactly like the family it was about.
Let me go! Hoochie coochie.
The original had its share of exaggerated performances.
I
big expressions, extreme physicality, faces contorted into something barely human.
There's extra pudding at the...
And it worked. It worked because it wasn't constant. Most of the time, the characters were grounded and believable, which meant that when things escalated, the escalation felt earned. And when it did escalate, it was embedded in a visual style and an energy that supported it.
I can do this. I just need to focus my mind on the problem and think clearly.
In the sequel, that context is gone. The show looks clean and naturalistic, leans heavily on dialogue, and is trying at least part of the time to be taken seriously as drama. And yet many of the performances are consistently pushed just a little too far, faces that are always slightly on, always slightly more than the moment requires.
Is this stuck up? Is this showing off?
It's not extreme, but it's constant. And without the visual chaos and joke density that used to absorb and justify those choices, it becomes distracting in a way it never was in the original.
I know how to tie shoelaces away so they never come untied, and I love you!
The original used music as a comedic tool. The score wasn't just accompanying scenes, it was participating in them.
What'd you do?
Mom, I'm trying to study.
Wow.
Beyond the comedy, the original had a genuine musical identity. It used unconventional, offbeat compositions to underline just how strange these characters and situations were. Music that felt as anarchic as everything else about the show, and its soundtrack choices were memorable enough that they stayed with you long after the episode ended. The sequel has none of that personality. The score is clean, functional, and forgettable, the kind of music that could have come from a royalty-free corporate library.
She fake sneezed a booger onto her chin.
It does its job and disappears. In the original, it had a point of view. What made the original cast so memorable was that every character contained contradictions. They were unpredictable. Reese was a brutal bully who cried over butterflies.
This is fantastic! Look at all of you guys!
Malcolm was a genius who consistently made terrible decisions.
What's going on?
Lois was terrifying and completely devoted.
You listen to me, you idiot. My child is sick.
Hal was irresponsible and the most loving father on television.
Picture this. A laser-guided bee cannon. Bees shot out with the precision of a laser.
Nobody was what they appeared to be on the surface. But beyond the contradictions, what made them truly compelling was that they were all, in their own way, completely uncontrollable. None of them conformed to what society expected of them. They operated by their own rules, in their own reality, and that refusal to be normal was at the heart of what made the show so funny and so alive. In the sequel, that quality is rarely there. Yes, people mellow as they get older. That's real, and that's fair. But there's a difference between a character growing up and a character losing the thing that made them extraordinary. The sequel doesn't just show us older versions of these people, it shows us tamed versions. The madness surfaces occasionally, but it's the exception rather than the rule.
You are not going to beat me.
The complexity is gone for the most part, and without it, they're harder to root for. In the original, Malcolm was a genius. Sarcastic, funny, sensitive, arrogant, brave, provocative, and completely aware of every room he walked into.
I can't believe the awesomeness of how awesome this is.
His intelligence was effortless. He didn't prepare for conversations, he dominated them.
The steering wheel's on the wrong side. There's no brake pedal. The words in the mirror should be backwards. The guy's watch wouldn't say 12 o'clock if he's looking at a sunset. And I have red paint on my ass.
In the sequel, that version of Malcolm is almost unrecognizable.
I won't make it worse. I won't make it worse.
He whispers self-help mantras before entering a room. He second-guesses everything. His genius never comes through, not once.
At their age, they're a little self-righteous, simultaneously overconfident, and insecure.
The original Malcolm was often helpless, but in a funny, recognizable way. The sequel turned him into someone who just quietly falls apart, and that's not the same thing at all.
Stevie, quit clowning around. They already know there's nothing to confess. It's Mom. She sees apologies as permission to become more enraged.
That said, there's one moment where the old Malcolm surfaces.
You made me do this! Malcolm! This family's non-stop antisocial behavior and mindless belligerence and myopic priorities are toxic to me!
It's genuinely one of the funniest moments in the entire sequel, and that's exactly the point. The second they let him be who he actually is, it works. Lois in the original was relentless, overwhelming, and completely convinced she was right about everything, and almost always was.
If you've broken another window, it is going to come out of your...
Are you done? You wanna frisk me?
The show found endless comedy in the gap between how she saw herself and how everyone else experienced her. But for all her intensity, she was never cold. She showed her children they mattered to her.
Are you sure you're not embarrassed to be seen with your mother?
She was hard, but she was fair. And when she was wrong, she could admit it. In the sequel, something feels off. The priority list is very her. But when Frances finds the baby booties in her shopping bag, and she immediately tries to play it off and walk away.
Sale and I can return them.
I knew it was important to you.
Go away!
What's my number now, Mom?
That's not the Lois we know. The original Lois would never have hidden something like that. She wore her love loudly, even when it came out sideways. And the bathroom scene with Malcolm is where it becomes hardest to recognize her.
You've accomplished so much. And all of it is you. It's just you.
Rather than acknowledging the pressure she put on him and taking some responsibility for it, she defends it as good parenting.
That was you lying? You've been lying to me?
The original Lois was tough, but she was also honest with herself and with her kids. This version feels harder in a way that doesn't quite fit. Less like a woman who loves fiercely, and more like one who has simply stopped letting people in. Hal in the original was a masterpiece of comic writing.
I think we got ourselves a natural.
Childlike, passionate, completely devoted to Lois, and capable of disappearing into an obsession at a moment's notice. Bryan Cranston played him with such precise physical comedy and such genuine warmth that Hal was the show's secret weapon.
That's our song. Not our song. No.
In the sequel, almost none of that remains.
Fear has been my constant companion, not as a condition or an abstraction, but something tangible.
But in the original, fear was one color in a very full palette. In the sequel, it's almost all there is. He's anxious, passive, and quietly sad for most of the 4 episodes, and the charm and charisma that made him so magnetic in the original has largely disappeared.
Hal. Oh. Hal, we don't turn down sex.
In the original, it was always completely clear what Lois and everyone around him saw in him. In the sequel, that quality is very hard to find. And there's one moment where he lost me completely, when he thanks his sons in a way that frames his own capacity for forgiveness as something remarkable, as if enduring their chaos makes him somehow admirable.
Thank you, thank you, thank you for that gift. Especially you.
It's a sentiment that feels completely unlike the Hal we knew. The original Hal would never have needed credit for loving his family, he just did. Reese in the original was one of the most surprisingly layered characters on the show. Stupid, impulsive, violent, creative, brave, and underneath all of it, genuinely warm. The show never let you forget that he was dangerous, but it also never let you forget that he meant well. In the sequel, that danger is completely gone. He gets pushed around by his younger sibling.
Ow! 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 What are you doing?
He has no moment of real aggression, no scheme that goes catastrophically wrong in a uniquely Reese way. The one thing that could have qualified, what he did to Hal, doesn't fit the character as we knew him. Reese's chaos always came from stupidity and impulse, not from something calculated and cruel. And the less said about that facial expression he holds for 4 episodes, the better. Frances in the original was the show's most important off-screen presence. He was in Alabama, then Alaska, then New Mexico, always far away, always in conflict with Lois, always somehow the emotional center of whatever was happening at home.
You know, you guys should really get your story straight before you try to ditch me on my birthday.
Over 7 seasons, the tension between him and his mother never fully disappeared. It just quietly settled into something more like an uneasy peace. In the sequel, Frances is arguably the character who stayed closest to who he always was.
Your pee stuck out of my face.
Seriously? You can't even be happy for me about this?
He's still reactive, still dramatic, still capable of making everything about himself in the most entertaining way possible. And as a result, he ends up being the funniest presence in the whole miniseries.
And even recognizing how futile and self-destructive it is, you're still gonna embrace this insanity?
Yes, you get it.
You could argue that the show has moved on, and Frances simply hasn't. But given that what made these characters so extraordinary was precisely those qualities the sequel seems so eager to develop away from, Frances refusing to change feels less like a flaw and more like an accidental gift. Dewey was the original show's most quietly extraordinary character. A kid who taught himself piano, composed operas, processed the world through art, and was consistently ignored by everyone around him, which the show played both for comedy and for something genuinely melancholy. He was the most talented person in a family that never quite had the bandwidth to notice. In the sequel, he barely appears, mostly on a laptop screen with one beautiful piano piece for Hal. But what bothers me more than his absence is what little we do get of him. The Dewey who could dismantle a situation with a single perfectly observed line, who saw everything and said it in a way nobody else could. That version of the character is nowhere to be found, not one smart line.
Sometimes I don't know where I am, and then Dad calls. He doesn't understand time zones, and it's always like 4 in the morning.
Not one moment where his intelligence or his particular way of seeing the world comes through. For a character who was quietly the deep person in the room for 7 seasons, that's a hard thing to watch. There's a screenwriting concept called save the cat. The idea that at some point in a story, your character needs a moment that makes the audience root for them. It doesn't have to be early, and it doesn't have to be big. It just has to be human. A small gesture, a moment of warmth, something that shows there's more going on underneath. The character can be a complete jerk everywhere else, but once you've seen them as save the cat, you're with them. You have a reason to care. Kelly never gets that moment. Throughout the 4 episodes, Kelly is consistently and almost exclusively antagonistic.
I found my calling. I'm an informer. It's like being a whistleblower, but mean.
She demands consideration and understanding from everyone around her.
I'm not afraid of you. I get good grades, I help around the house, I'm your only kid without a file at the police station, I'm untouchable.
Someone might point to her speech in the anniversary video as a moment of warmth, but she's really just feeling sorry for herself. That's not the same thing. Warmth directed inward isn't the same as warmth directed at someone else, and the difference is exactly what makes a character someone you root for rather than just someone you observe. Leah is one of the few things the sequel genuinely gets right, and I mean that with real enthusiasm. She has Malcolm's intelligence and self-awareness,
Why do you take such delight in humiliating someone who shouldn't even be on your radar?
his tendency to analyze every social situation to death, and his complete inability to just let things happen.
We agree on one thing.
What have I done?
She breaks the 4th wall, she talks to the camera, she has a rich inner monologue that the show trusts the audience to follow. She's not perfect, but she's one of the most fully realized new elements the sequel introduces, and the one that leaves you most curious about where the story would go from here.
I want you to stay perfect.
Okay, that's just fighting dirty.
A few words on the rest of the cast. Jamie was never my favorite in the original either, and the sequel doesn't change that.
I really appreciated his tenderness. Even though I'm kind of a tough guy. I mean, look at these beasts!
He shows up, he's there, and that's about all there is to say. The military academy friends, Craig, Gretchen, Richie, and Kitty, were a different story. They were genuinely charming and funny, and more than that, they felt like themselves. Gretchen in particular was one of the funniest presences in the entire sequel.
My goodness. You have a calf inside you.
They didn't have complex arcs or major storylines, but they didn't need them. They simply showed up as the people we remembered, and that was enough. Stevie gets a special mention. His dry, sarcastic friend Glenn is immediately likable.
Malcolm, can he call you back? It's his turn for story time, and we need to finish before midnight.
And there's a moment near the end where Stevie tips himself over in his wheelchair, a clear callback to the very first episode.
That doesn't work for everything, Stevie.
It's one of the sharpest, funniest lines in the whole sequel. In 4 words, it references 7 seasons of history and lands perfectly. More of that, please. Another pattern that stood out to me throughout the sequel. In the original, the men were chaotic and irresponsible, but they were also capable, funny, and occasionally formidable. Reese was dangerous, Hal was passionate, Francis was resourceful, Malcolm was brilliant. In the sequel, almost every male character exists primarily to be corrected, embarrassed, or outmaneuvered by the women around them.
I promise I won't try to jump out again.
It's 11 more hours to Grandma and Grandpa's.
Honey, I have great news.
This feels less like an accident and more like a pattern that has become increasingly common in Hollywood and Disney productions in recent years. The idea that empowering women somehow requires making the men around them small and incompetent, but that framing raises a question. What does it actually say about your view of women if you believe their strength and competence only shine when surrounded by bumbling idiots? Reducing the men doesn't elevate anyone, it just leaves you with a less interesting show. The original Malcolm in the Middle was never a show with a political agenda. It was too busy being funny. When it had something to say about class, family, education, or society, it said it through character and comedy, never through dialogue that stopped the story to make a point.
And I'm so glad the gay thing isn't an issue.
You're gay?
Oh, no, silly.
You are. The sequel is visibly aware of 2026. Kelly's non-binary identity is introduced and handled with care. Diversity in the cast is clearly intentional. None of this is inherently a problem, but the way it sometimes manifests as dialogue that exists primarily to signal awareness rather than to serve the story is exactly the kind of thing the original would have found a funnier way to do. That's my take. Make of it what you will. In my opinion, Malcolm in the Middle is one of the greatest comedies ever made. It earned that. And the people who made it clearly still care about these characters. You can feel it in certain moments throughout the 4 episodes. Those moments are real, and I don't want to take that away from anyone who loved the sequel. What I missed most was the joke density, the visual chaos, the characters in their full complexity, the tonal balance that made the original feel like nothing else on television. Some of that surfaces in the sequel, but not often enough, and not consistently enough to carry 4 episodes. If you grew up with Malcolm in the Middle, and you're still here, whether you loved the sequel or not, subscribe, because this channel goes deeper into the original. And if you haven't seen my breakdown of Craig Feldspar yet, arguably the most unsettling character the show ever produced, go check that one out.